After 18 years of secrets, a slave's child returns to reveal a hidden, incredible truth. Emma stood on the dilapidated steps of her childhood home, the smell of earth and neglect enveloping her, tightening like a noose around her heart. Each creak of the wooden structure felt like a wail from her past, a chorus of voices buried in the dust. She was back 25 years old, but marked by the scars of abandonment. In the cradle of her youth, whispers of her mother intertwined with the ghosts of the town, a mother who had fought for justice, a legacy trampled beneath the weight of silence. She returned to reclaim the narrative of a life that had been wrested away from her, yet uncertainty loomed like dark clouds over her head. The town, now a stranger, bustled around her, steeped in the very secrets she had spent her life trying to unearth. Tension bubbled beneath the surface as she encountered familiar faces shadowed by unfamiliar prejudice. Emma's heart raced. These were the very same people who once watched her with disdain, and now they were all too aware of her lineage. With each stride towards her past, the invisible line dividing their worlds sharpened. Could she truly challenge the deeply rooted prejudices that surrounded her? Did she have the resolve to stand firm against the currents of history that sought to erode her voice? Days turned into weeks, and she clenched her fists as frustration mounted. Every revelation about her mother felt like a double-edged sword, her sense of belonging at war with the dread of unearthing wounds the town had long avoided. Confronted by Ruth, her elderly neighbor with a gaze that seemed to pierce through her, Emma often felt like a marionette, strings tangled the moment Ruth shared tales of her mother's fight for dignity. Each time she listened, a swell of emotion threatened to drown out her rationality. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Yet the pressure mounted. Each story she gathered weighed heavier upon her shoulders. What if the community couldn't handle the truth? Emma's mind raced with these conflicting thoughts, battling against her growing determination to reclaim her family's narrative. Standing at the intersection of her identity and her ambition, she feared rejection. Could she truly illuminate her mother's past without igniting a firestorm of resentment? The thought rendered her breathless, every pulse echoing the shame she had carried too long. As she crafted her presentation, words colliding with hopes and dreams, each keystroke felt like a battle. The stage loomed ahead, darkened by the uncertainty of acceptance. Emma's throat tightened, and she knew, deep down, that she was on the precipice of something insurmountable. The whispers of both the crowd and the generations of her forebears pressed upon her. Could she weave their truths into her own? With every ounce of her being, she clung to the belief that she was more than just her past. She could be the voice that broke the silence, but the risk weighed heavily in the air. Would they listen, or would they silence her once more? The room held breath, teetering on the edge of something profound, leaving Emma at a crossroads where the legacy of her mother's courage could either spark a revolution or plunge her back into obscurity. Emma sank deeper into her thoughts as she paced the worn floor of what used to be her mother's workspace. Dust particles danced in the sunbeams filtering through the cracked windows, illuminating the faded walls that had once been vibrant with life and hope. Driven by an insatiable desire to know her mother's truth, she felt a growing urgency. She had to share this knowledge, not just for herself, but as a tribute to a legacy long suppressed. With each breath, the air was thick with the weight of expectation. Hers and the town's that she sat at an old wooden desk littered with remnants of the past, papers yellowed with time. An overwhelming sense of purpose coursed through her veins as she pulled out a journal filled with her mother's notes. Each page told a story woven from resilience, pain, and unyielding strength. Yet with every revelation came the fear that those very same pages could unravel the lives of the people who had played a part in her mother's struggle. Would they view her as an adversary or a beacon of truth? Days turned into restless nights, and Emma found herself grappling with sleeplessness. The weight of moral complexity gnawed at her. To honor her mother meant exposing the festering wounds of the past, but would it also harm those who had built lives atop those wounds? Confronting this moral dilemma, she questioned her values. Was it her place to decide who should be held accountable? Could she rise above the fear that stalked her every thought? The deepening psychological conflict ignited a fire within her. Emma was no longer just a daughter seeking answers, she was evolving into an agent of change. She realized that her journey was not solely about unveiling her mother's narrative, but about reclaiming her own identity and voice. She discovered her hidden potential in the very act of writing, the ability to provoke thought, incite confrontation, and ultimately spark conversations that stretched beyond her own life. Armed with the stories she had gathered, Emma began crafting a narrative, one that would not only captivate but also challenge her audience. Should she craft a tale of victimhood or empowerment? It became clear that her mother's journey was not just about suffering but rather about shedding light in the unfamiliar shadows. Here lay an opportunity to dismantle prejudice by showcasing the strength of those who had fought back against the tides of ignorance. As she finalized her presentation, Emma felt an electric rush of resolve surge within her. The room where she would speak seemed to draw nearer, urging her to be bold, to speak loudly against the whispers that had kept her mother silent. Each word she penned held the power to topple walls built over generations of silence, but the question remained: how would the audience react? But beneath her newfound determination lurked an unsettling thought: could she maintain this clarity and conviction when faced with opposition? Just as she felt ready to emerge from the shadows of doubt, a cold shiver crept down her spine. The memory of the town's disdainful faces re-emerged, layering her resolve with uncertainty. The thought hit her like a jolt: the time had come to face not just her past but also the consequences of revealing the truth. Emma stood poised at the cliff of revelation, unaware of how her life and perhaps the lives of many others would change when she took that leap forward. Would the truth she dared to voice set her free or ensnare her further? The answer awaited her in the echoes of her next steps, as she prepared to raise her voice amidst deafening silence. Emma drew in a steadying breath, the musty air of her mother's workspace swirling with memories that were both her burden and her catalyst. She had spent countless hours lost in her thoughts, but now, an unwavering determination tethered her to the present moment. This was more than just about unearthing the past, it was about forging her path forward. Seated at the desk, she flipped through her mother's journal once more, this time with a critical eye. The words on the page danced, revealing glimpses of strength interwoven with despair. They spoke volumes of a life lived in shadows, yet they also whispered hints of resilience and rebellion. Emma's fingers traced the text, feeling a connection deeper than mere ink. It was as if her mother's spirit pulsed through the pages, urging her to act. Each reference to hardship caused a fissure of doubt to ripple across her resolve. Would her mother want her to reveal these stories, or to protect those involved? It dawned on Emma that her mother, a woman with an unwavering moral compass, would likely expect her to navigate this murky ethical landscape with care. A nagging thought toyed with her determination: by shedding light on the truth, was she risking undoing the very fabric of lives once stitched together? An agonizing realization she struggled to confront. Pushing back against those thoughts, Emma forced herself to focus on her new resolve. Clenching her fists, she committed to her voice, a tool not born to incite violence but to invoke understanding. The complexity of her mother's experiences, fraught with betrayal and triumph, offered invaluable lessons. Perhaps it was time to transform her fear into a form of empowerment for herself and others. Beyond the walls of the town that had long silenced truth, every moment of hesitation began to feel like a concession to the very fears she sought to dismantle. Restlessness surged within her, and she found herself sprinting to the old bookshelf in the corner, scattering dust as she searched for a piece she had stashed away. This essay, an erudite exploration of history and rights, had languished in obscurity long enough. Brought forth from obscurity, its contents became a part of her, adding weight to her purpose. As she read and reread the essays, her mind sparked with ideas. She would weave a narrative that showcased her mother's truths not as mere anecdotes of suffering but as profound testaments of human spirit, urging the audience to confront their own biases. What lay ahead was daunting, yet promised a profound personal transformation. Emma knew she must embrace all aspects of her mother's legacy. Realization hit her hard: this was not about reliving her mother's pain, but about crafting a future where stories could carry power to heal. In doing so, she would forge her own identity, a voice that resonated beyond past constraints. Each heartbeat mirrored her accelerating resolve, nearing the cusp of action, even while fear lingered like a shadow behind her. Approaching the town's meeting hall on the day of her presentation, she felt her heart constrict. The familiar architecture loomed large, a reminder of all the secrets hidden within its walls. What awaited her was not just a gathering but an arena of judgment. As she stood at the threshold, she faced the collective gaze of those she had once revered but now feared could retaliate. This was the moment. Would she sink into silence, allowing the shadows to reclaim their hold? Or would she confront her doubts, transform them into a beacon of truth? The weight of the past clashed with the promise of emancipation, and just as her resolve solidified, another anxiety crept in. What if the truth she was about to unearth unleashed forces she couldn't control? And within this storm of emotions, Emma sensed the untapped power swelling within her, ready to break free. With a deep breath, she stepped into the hall, her story poised to shatter the silence that had long enveloped her mother's legacy. A fire burned quietly inside her, and as the gathered crowd awaited her words, she questioned whether she was ready for the tumult that lay ahead. The moment of truth awaited, and with each echoing heartbeat, Emma felt the stakes rising with urgency. Would she be a harbinger of change or a victim of her own revelation? Emma's heart raced as she stepped onto the makeshift stage, the crowd a sea of familiar faces, now transformed into scrutinizing strangers. An unsettling blend of determination and anxiety washed over her. She clutched the podium, its coolness grounding her in the moment, while the whispers of her mother's journal echoed in her mind. With a deep inhale, she opened her mouth to speak. Her voice trembled at first, the weight of silence pressing down on her. The initial words were clumsy, but she could feel the audience sharpening their focus, intrigued yet reserved. As she spoke about her mother, her struggles, her resilience, each revelation slid from her lips like armor, creating a shield against the judgment she feared. The more she narrated, the more her nerves began to settle, transforming her trepidation into a powerful elation. Halfway through her story, she noticed a familiar face in the audience, a childhood friend turned skeptic, Marcus. His expression was one of disbelief, a reaction she had anticipated but had hoped to sway with clarity. The memory of their last conversation, laden with doubt about her intentions, flashed in her mind. Would she be able to shift his perspective? Emma pressed on, weaving anecdotes of her mother's life with historical context and personal insight. She infused hope into her narrative, ensuring that the shadows of the past were not the sole focus. Her voice rang with conviction, each inflection pulling the audience closer, coaxing them to listen, to understand. Yet, as she neared the climax of her presentation, doubt crept back in, threatening to unravel her courage. What if the story she was telling was met with outright rejection? Would the painful truths about her mother's past sever ties in the very community she sought to heal? She could feel Marcus's gaze piercing through her, echoing the resistance she had felt from the town's collective memory. In that moment, a realization struck her: she was not merely a relayer of her mother's experiences. She was a seeker of truth, her truth. If she faltered now, it would mean compounding the silence her mother had endured. Drawing strength from this, Emma gathered her remaining courage and continued, allowing her passion to flow unfiltered. I'm here today not only to share her story but to invite each one of you to reflect on your own. Each word was heavy with purpose, resonating through the hall. How many truths have we overlooked? How many stories deserve to be told? The audience shifted, internal dialogues igniting in the space between her words and their thoughts. Emma could sense a shift. Some eyes softened, others narrowed in contemplation. Encouraged, she delved deeper, detailing her mother's rebellion against a system that imposed silence. Emma's own voice began to merge with her mother's, becoming a chorus that demanded acknowledgement and understanding. Her heart raced wildly, not from fear, but from exhilaration. As she finished the presentation, a palpable silence settled over the room, pregnant with unspoken emotions. Emma's breath was labored, her vulnerability laid bare, but a flicker of hope ignited. If she could confront the past, maybe others could too. but just as she embraced the silence, the quiet was shattered by a single voice rising above the rest. It was Marcus, his brow furrowed with conflict. "What you've said today changes everything," he began, uncertainty weaving through his tone. "But what about the consequences?" In that moment, Emma realized this was not merely a presentation, it was the beginning of a far larger confrontation. A debate not only over her mother's legacy but also over the right to speak, to uncover, to heal or harm with the truth. Emma stood before her audience, the tension crackling in the air, ready to embrace this newfound conflict. Would she summon the courage to withstand the challenges that lay ahead, or would she be swept away by the very forces she sought to upend? The next chapter of her journey was just beginning, and it begged the question, could unveiling one truth lead to the unraveling of many more? Emma's heartbeat drummed in her ears, each thud a reminder that her journey was just beginning. Marcus's question hung, suspended in the air like a fragile glass ornament, teetering on the edge of revelation. The way he had framed it, the consequences felt like a gauntlet thrown at her feet. What might unravel from the truths she had dared to share? She took a moment to gather her thoughts, acutely aware of the shifting atmosphere around her. The spectrum of emotions painted across the faces in the crowd mirrored her own internal chaos, an echo of her fears and hopes. This was more than a simple presentation, it was a foray into deeper vulnerability, into the unknown territories of communal memory. "Consequences are unavoidable," she finally replied, her voice steadying as she met Marcus's gaze. "But what matters is how we choose to respond to them. My mother lived her life under the weight of silence. If what I have shared today causes discomfort, then perhaps we should examine the discomfort itself." There was a ripple of murmured agreement and dissent throughout the room, illuminating the divisions within the audience, those who supported her and those still clinging to old narratives. The confrontation with Marcus stirred something within her. It wasn't just about defending her mother's legacy anymore, this journey was becoming a quest for her own voice, a reclamation of the narrative that had been long distorted. Emma felt emboldened by the unexpected support that was beginning to surface, a flickering fire igniting her determination. Drawing a deep breath, she pivoted her focus back to the audience. "We have all inherited pieces of our past, but stored in those pieces is the potential for transformation. I want to challenge all of you. Are you willing to confront your own truths? Or will we remain shackled by the stories we tell ourselves?" Each word was imbued with meaning, ceramic spaces shattered in the delicate balance of her purpose. Emma sensed the eyes of the crowd shifting again. Some were glinting with acceptance, while others remained squinting through suspicion. But she couldn't afford to harbor the weight of their skepticism, it would only act as an anchor, dragging her back into the depths of doubt. As she stepped back from the podium, hoping her message resonated, the doubt that had once consumed her began to dissipate, giving birth to a burgeoning resolve. Emma realized this was just the beginning of her confrontation, not only with the audience but within herself. She had to determine what this newfound assertiveness would look like in her everyday life. Her stroll through the space following her presentation felt surreal. It was a journey painted with shades of fear, emerging hope, and anticipatory thrill. People approached her, strangers with familiarity, offering praise, but also questions. "Emma," a gentle voice piped up, it was an older woman whose eyes glimmered with understanding, "where do you go from here?" For the first time, she allowed herself to contemplate the next step. What was unsettling but inviting was that she didn't have a complete answer. However, the more she mulled over the possibilities, the clearer they became. "I think it's time I take the next leap. I need to dig deeper into the truths that still linger in the shadows of my past." Even as she said it, doubt flashed like lightning in her mind. Was she prepared to dive further into a familial history that echoed with pain? Would reconciling these truths lead to healing or further turmoil? With each step away from the stage, Emma felt the urgency of her journey infecting her thoughts and dreams. She was ready to reach into the depths of hidden memories, but was she prepared for the truths that awaited? Determination surged within, intertwining with the remnants of anxiety. Emma knew this was a call to action. It had finally become more than just her mother's story. What lies beneath the surface of her family's history that could either fortify her resolve or dismantle everything she thought she knew? It was a question laden with potential, Question tethered to her evolving identity. Emma was ready to confront the ghosts of her past. The time had come to face what history had buried deep. Walking away from the podium, Emma felt the echoes of her words wrap around her like a cloak. The exhilaration coursing through her veins was tinged with the chill of uncertainty, and she wondered if she truly understood what she had set in motion. The question lingered: was she ready to unravel the family secrets that had been buried for so long? Each step brought her closer to a pivotal moment of reckoning. She pushed through the crowd, her heart racing. Friendly faces turned to her, shimmering with encouragement, while others sliced through the air with veiled skepticism. They demanded answers, but inside, she yearned for clarity. Emma. The voice was clear, cutting through the thrumming atmosphere. It was Marcus, his presence imposing and his gaze scrutinizing. You're brave for sharing your truths. But how far are you willing to go? What if you uncover facts that you'd rather keep hidden? He had a knack for poking at her deepest anxieties, but his challenge also sparked a faint flicker of resolve within her. I want the truth, she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. Even if it frightens me. Just remember, he cautioned, his tone shifting slightly, the past can be a vindictive beast. Tread carefully. His words clawed at her nerves, but they sparked something in her, a fierce desire for understanding. As she walked away, Emma felt the weight of the task ahead coiling around her like a tightening noose. Could she really dig deeper into her family's history without losing herself in the process? Emma recalled her mother, stoic in her silence, a woman who had borne burdens too heavy to share. Every moment spent reflecting on her mother's life felt like tracing a path through a thicket of brambles. One misstep could lead to a halt, or worse, self-inflicted wounds. Lost in thought, Emma found herself at a quiet corner of the hall. She pulled out her phone, contemplating her next move. Retracing her mother's steps would mean confronting the family archives, the boxes buried in the attic, filled with fading photographs and brittle letters. But there was more hiding within, whispers of a past that had been sealed away for her protection. What if there were truths not just belonging to her mother but to a lineage stretching far beyond what she had ever considered? Secrets hidden away in fragments of exercises, documents, and snapshots of fleeting moments stopped in time. The temptation to protect her heart from fresh wounds struggled against the insistent call of her burgeoning curiosity. With high stakes resting upon her shoulders, she closed her eyes, inhaling the scent of dust and past lives. She envisioned opening those boxes, the musty air wrapping around her as secrets unfurled, tales speaking between the lines of what had been written. Was she ready to face them? Emma had spent too long in the shadows of fear, hiding behind her mother's legacy, allowing silence to represent power. It was time to step forward, to defy instinct and confront the complex weave of her heritage. She could not afford to backtrack now. This was about reclaiming her own narrative. Her decision crystallized with each breath she took. The hunt for introspection had begun, and with it came the understanding that not all truths would bring solace. The echoes of her mother's choices pressed down, but they were no longer choking her. After a few moments of steeling herself, Emma's resolve surged. She was going to the attic tomorrow. She was ready to confront the memories lingering there, and whatever hung precariously above her family's past. As she headed home, anticipation mingled with trepidation. Emma understood she was walking a fine line, navigating through pain that loomed like a specter. Yet the deeper she dug, the more she sensed her own identity expanding into a tapestry of possibilities. Tomorrow, she would face the artifacts of her lineage, her fingers brushing against the weight of history. Would unearthing her family's hidden truths grant her the clarity she sought, or would it expose wounds too fresh to heal? The answers lay ahead, waiting in the shadows of her attic, shrouded by time. The morning dawned with a thick blanket of fog draping the neighborhood, shrouding everything in a ghostly silence. Emma's heart pounded as she prepared for the pivotal task ahead. The image of the attic loomed large in her mind, an enigmatic realm where time seemed suspended, harboring the whispered legacies of her ancestors. She brewed a cup of coffee, the bitter aroma sparking her early morning focus. With every sip, she steeled herself against the day's daunting endeavor. Striding toward the attic door, Emma found herself hesitating momentarily, a chill surging down her spine. This threshold had not been crossed in years, layers of dust and forgetfulness had become a barrier between her and the past. Taking a deep breath, she grasped the doorknob tightly. This was her moment of truth. As she climbed up the creaky staircase, the familiar scent of decaying wood and decades-old memories washed over her, welcome and unwelcome at once. The attic opened up before her like a trapdoor to a forgotten era. She flicked the light switch. It flickered hesitantly, illuminating stacks of boxes, each a repository of stories waiting to be told. The shadows seemed to dance as she moved deeper into the cramped space, each step layered with the weight of unresolved questions. Emma knelt before the first box, labeled in faded ink. Her hands trembled slightly as she pried open the lid. Old photographs spilled out, sepia-toned images of faces she barely recognized. For a moment, her breath caught in her throat. They were ghosts of her ancestry, leading her back to the genesis of her family history. With each photograph, she scrambled through connections and implications, uncovering strands of her past that revealed not only her roots but also the pain entwined within. In the bottom corner of the box, she discovered a bundle of letters, their edges worn and yellowing. Untying the frayed ribbon, Emma felt her pulse quicken. These were correspondences from an era she was nearly oblivious to, intimate notes between her mother and someone she hadn't fully known. Subtle nuances within the language echoed love and despair simultaneously, each word a thread connecting to unknown stories of resilience. With every letter she read, layers of her mother's existence peeled away, revealing a woman who had navigated complex choices under the weight of societal norms and personal sacrifices. Emma's perception began to shift, her mother transformed from an enigma into a figure of profound strength. Maybe she had not been as silent as Emma had believed. Perhaps there was bravery in her quietude, a fierce loyalty to secrets that took decades to bury. The sense of self-discovery was exhilarating but also harrowing. Emma began to question everything. What truths lay hidden behind her mother's decisions? Would uncovering these secrets liberate her or create fissures in the very foundation of her being? A moral dilemma gripped her, the desire to expose the past and the impulse to protect the memory of her mother's choices. Just as she felt the tide of emotions rising, something caught her eye from the corner of the attic. A small locked chest, ornate but dusty, seemed to call out to her. She hadn't seen it before, and it instinctively felt different from the boxes around her. Emma approached it, her heart racing. With no key in sight, she felt an impulsive surge of determination. Should she force it open? What might reside inside? Was it not just curiosity but a test of her commitment to unraveling her family's story? The choice gnawed at her. The fear of what lay beyond the lock clashed violently with the yearning for revelation. Emma took a step back, momentarily paralyzed. The hollow thump of her heart echoed in her ears as she grappled with the dilemma. This was not merely an exploration of the past, it was an unraveling of herself. She needed to confront the ghosts, not just to understand her lineage but to reclaim her narrative from shadows that had long loomed over her. The decision hovered close, a whisper in the attic stillness. As she reached for the chest, Emma felt the moment shift. Would she unlock the chest and confront whatever painful truths it held, or would she turn back, letting the past rest in its shrouded corner? With bated breath, her fingers grazed the lock, searching for the key to her history, ready or not. As Emma hovered over the locked chest, a flood of emotions surged through her: anticipation, fear, and an unfamiliar resolve that urged her to dig deeper. The attic felt less like a place of dust and shadows, and more like a crucible, igniting her hunger for the truth. She took a steadying breath, aware that whatever lay within the chest could fundamentally alter her understanding of herself and her family. Fingers trembling, she looked around the attic for something to pry the ancient chest open. As her eyes scanned the room, they landed on a narrow, rusty screwdriver half buried beneath a pile of forgotten papers. It was not the ideal tool for this task, but desperation often breeds creativity. Emma reached for it, the cold metal a stark reminder of her resolve. This was a symbol of her choice to confront the past, no matter what pain it harbored. With determination coursing through her veins, she approached the chest again. She could almost feel the weight of history pulsing from behind the lock. Emma pressed the screwdriver against the latch, her heart racing. She thought of the letters, of her mother's hidden complexities, and how each revelation thus far had peeled back the layers of her own identity. As she applied pressure, the wood creaked in protest, and the lock resisted. Frustration bubbled within her. Was she truly ready to face whatever truth lay prisoned inside? Would this act of defiance resurrect whispers of regret, or offer salvation in understanding? Just one more push, she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper, as if coaxing not just the lock but also herself into action. With a final, forceful twist of her wrist, the lock snapped open, the sound startling in the thick attic silence. Emma lifted the lid, and the smell of aged wood filled her nostrils. Inside, nestled among the layers of tissue paper, lay a collection of meticulously arranged letters, similar to the ones she had found before. But these were unlike any she had seen. The handwriting was bold, fierce. Her heart quickened as she recognized it belonged to someone entirely different. With a shaking breath, she pulled out the top letter, unfolding it with reverence. It was addressed to her mother, but the tone was intimate in a way that made her heart race. Scanning the first few lines, Emma's chest tightened. The writer conveyed raw emotion. Longing and regret flowed through the ink like currents, hinting at a relationship laden with complexity. The echoes of a tumultuous romance intertwined with the information that could explain so much more than she ever expected. As she read on, the pieces of her mother's life began to fit together like a long-hidden jigsaw puzzle. Names mentioned within the letters, snippets of conversation caught between the lines, painted a portrait of a woman who had choices, both liberating and constraining. Emma felt her mother's spirit rise from the pages, beckoning her to understand that silence was often a shield, but so rarely a solution. The more Emma absorbed, the more she realized the intricacies of her lineage. This was not just a journey to acknowledge the past, it was a quest to understand herself, to redefine her identity in relation to the women who had existed before her. Driven by this revelation, she felt the tide of determination swell within her, a fierce resolve emerging from the depths of her uncertainty. Yet within the swell of empowerment, a pang of doubt lingered. What would she do with this information? How would she reconcile the newfound truths with her existing beliefs about family and loyalty? The moral dilemmas were mounting. She would either confront the reality of who her mother was or continue to idealize an image constructed from silence. Emma paused, the reality of her discovery crashing over her like waves. Every decision she had faced seemed insignificant compared to the weight of what she now held. The past had seeped into her essence, unavoidable and demanding acknowledgement. She tucked the letters back into the chest, a protective instinct rising in her. The air shifted, charged with potential but also uncertainty. Whatever revelations lay ahead, one truth echoed in her mind: she could no longer run from her family's legacy. With a renewed sense of purpose, Emma felt the pulse of an impending journey ahead. She would delve deeper into the threads binding her to the stories of her ancestors. The locked chest was a mere beginning, an invitation to uncover the depths of her lineage. As she descended from the attic, the heavy thud of her heart matched the rhythm of her footsteps. What awaited her would require strength she was only beginning to understand. But first, she needed to confront the woman who had been her constant figure of inspiration, a woman whose secrets were about to emerge from silence. The time had come to face her mother and the ghosts of the past. Would Emma discover the courage to ask the difficult questions and honor the truth that was long hidden? Emma stood at the foot of the stairs leading to her mother's study, heart racing with anticipation. The air felt thick, laden with the tension of unspoken words and unresolved feelings. Each step she took felt like a countdown to an encounter that could irrevocably shift the foundations of their relationship. The letters rested heavily in her mind, each phrase echoing like a drumbeat of revelation as she recalled the fiery passion and hidden truths they revealed about her mother. As she approached the door, she hesitated. What if she opened a Pandora's box that could not be closed again? What if the weight of these letters changed how her mother viewed her? Emma's hand lingered on the knob, a physical manifestation of her indecision and fear. But she also felt a force surging inside her, a conviction that buried truths needed to surface. Taking a breath, she turned the knob and pushed the door open. The study, filled with sunlight filtering through sheer curtains, looked unchanged. Her mother sat at her desk, engrossed in a book, the soft rustle of pages filling the air. Here was the woman who had shaped Emma's world, embodying strength and grace. But now, Emma wondered how much of that image was anchored in denial. "Mom." Emma's voice wavered. Her mother looked up, surprise flickering across her features. "Emma. I didn't expect to see you today. Is everything all right?" The casualness of her mother's tone struck Emma like a blow. Everything felt far from all right, but how could she distill that complexity into words? "I found something in the attic," she said, gauging her mother's reaction. The shift in her mother's expression was instantaneous, the lightness evaporated. "What did you find?" Emma settled onto the edge of the chair opposite her mother, the revelation teetering on her lips. "Letters. Letters addressed to you from someone else." Her gaze locked onto her mother's eyes, searching for the connection, the understanding that had always been between them. The silence that followed felt eternal, stretching thin as emotion bridged the space between them. "What do they say?" Her mother's voice was edged with caution. "They speak of love, vulnerability, choices you made." Emma paused, weighing the next words carefully. "Choices that changed your life and mine." The weight of honesty hung heavy between them, each syllable daring to disrupt the carefully woven tapestry of their lives. Her mother shifted in her seat, the delicate tension palpable. "Emma, sometimes the past is better left unexamined." "It's complicated." "Is it?" Emma challenged, heart racing. "Or is it just more comfortable to hide behind the facade of simplicity?" Each sentence felt like a push against the dam holding back a deluge of emotions, both hers and her mother's. "I need to understand who you are, not just the mother I've known." The vulnerability in her words reverberated in the quiet space, and Emma could see recognition flicker in her mother's eyes, the realization that Emma was not the same child who sought answers in every corner of the house. She had grown, learned to assert herself, and now demanded transparency. Her mother sighed, a mixture of resignation and affection coloring her features. "You're right. It's time to talk about the past." The promise hung in the air, a fragile bridge built on trust and the hope of mutual understanding. Emma felt the ripples of empowerment surge within her, the knowledge that she was not merely a product of her environment but a dynamic force capable of challenging her narrative. Yet, as the moment of confrontation unfolded, Emma also understood the stakes involved. Each secret revealed would shatter the safety of their structured lives, redefining their bond entirely. In that profound stillness, Emma's pulse quickened, realizing that facing the truth would make her unearth not only her mother's hidden self but also her own. With the letters as a lens, they were on the brink of a deeper exploration of love, pain, and resilience, but as she prepared to dive into the heart of the conversation, a fleeting thought struck her: what if? Unveiling one truth led to other, darker revelations. The fear and anticipation vibrated through her, a reminder that they were standing at the precipice of something profound. With renewed resolve, Emma took a steady breath and prepared to step into the unknown, as both a daughter seeking answers and a woman ready to claim her own identity. The resounding question loomed ahead: how would they emerge from this confrontation, and could their connection withstand the power of truth? The moment of transparency, raw and unyielding, awaited them. Emma knew that whatever lay ahead would require strength, not just to uncover hidden truths, but to embrace the complex legacy of love that bound them. The tension in the room hung like an electric charge, crackling with unspoken emotions. Emma faced her mother, their eyes locking in an unbreakable gaze. It was no longer a child standing before her mother, this was a woman forged in the fires of self-discovery, armed with courage and clarity. "Let us start with the letters," Emma said steadily, her voice a blend of firmness and compassion. "They reveal your choices, stories untold. I want to understand them in you." Emma's mother's shoulders sagged under the weight of those words. "I had hoped you wouldn't find them. Some things were meant to remain buried, Emma. It was for your protection and mine. But by hiding, you've created a greater divide," Emma pressed, her heart hammering a rhythm of urgency. "Truth is not a greater burden than silence. You taught me that, remember?" A flicker of fear danced in her mother's eyes, but beneath it, something deeper stirred a recognition of the truth Emma had just articulated. The years of silence began to collapse under the weight of genuine connection. How could I explain? Her mother whispered, almost to herself, the admission slipping into the open air. I felt trapped by my choices. I lived in a world that demanded obedience. My life was dictated by expectations and consequences. I never wanted those heavinesses to fall upon you. Emma's heart ached at the vulnerability laid bare. But my life has been filled with shadows of unanswered questions. I have inherited your silence and your struggles. That's not the legacy I want. With a slow, deliberate breath, her mother nodded, the tears pooling in her eyes a testament to years of bottled emotion. I lost myself in the pursuit of safety and comfort. But in doing so, I masked who I was, and who I could have been. Emma felt the recognition echo deep within her. You were never just a mother. Your silence was not my inheritance, it was your shield. I refused to wear it any longer. Caught in that profound acknowledgement, something shifted. The past was now wielded by understanding, intertwining their journeys as mother and daughter rather than master and apprentice. Tell me about him, Emma whispered, the weight of the letters heavy in her hands. Tell me so that you may finally let him go. With a shuddering breath, her mother began to unfold the story, dark patches interwoven with threads of light. She spoke of young ambition, love ignited by rebellion, and the painful choice between family duty and her authentic self. Each word unraveled years' worth of secrets like a tapestry finally let loose. As her mother shared, Emma began to see the woman stood before her not just as a parent, but as a relatable figure whose struggles echoed within her own life, a crystallization of strength and vulnerability. With each passing moment of transparency, a spirited bond developed, a unification of kindred spirits finally facing the shadows of their ancestry together. Emma's tenure was complete. Armed with a deeper understanding, she felt the climax of her journey resonate brightly. She had reclaimed her mother's narrative while defining her own identity. Now that we've stepped into the light, what's next? Emma asked, her voice tinged with optimism. Her mother hesitated, contemplating the weight of their journey. We continue to confront our truths, share our stories, and make room for the complexities of our lineage. Together. In that moment, Emma recognized her solidified growth, no longer trapped by fear. The shame imposed by years of silence slowly dissipated, transforming into newfound strength. Now resolved, she expressed a sense of purpose. I want to share this story more broadly. It can't remain contained, it belongs to all of us, those seeking understanding, those living with shadows, those who encounter love hiding in places they never expected. Her mother reached for her hand, a wave of warmth radiating through their clasped fingers. You've accomplished so much, Emma. You've conquered fears and lifted the weight of secrets that bound us. This is your moment. With validation hanging thick in the air, Emma stood. Embodied, marked not by the silence of her family's history, but by the strength she exuded in sharing it. They had pushed through the murky waters of the past together, guiding each other through the complex legacies of love and pain. As they stood hand in hand, a deep pride surged within Emma, no longer an apprehensive daughter seeking truth, but an empowered woman shaped by her own story. This was the beginning, the launching point from which she would embrace her identity, challenge narratives, and script new chronicles. Now, Emma was ready to venture into the world, equipped with conviction. The shadows felt lighter, and with her mother at her side, she silently pledged to confront the timorous whispers that had haunted their lineage. Side by side, they were no longer encased in silence, they were two pioneers, ready to navigate the path to healing, power, and genuine connection. The day glimmered with possibility as they stepped outside, breathing in the essence of a renewed legacy that thrived on truth, vulnerability, and authentic relationships. Now, this is your moment to act. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us reach others who thrive on personal growth narratives. Comment your reactions about Emma's journey and the resolution she found. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share this powerful story of transformation and healing.